everyone, welcome back to this very interesting session, Field Medical Revolution, Transforming MSL Communication. Together with us, we have four great speakers. From left to the right, ladies first, we have Tamara Krcmar from Servier. Tamara, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Great to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
Fantastic, and I believe the pronunciation was very good.
Perfect.
Okay. Then we have Toni Vidal from Novartis. Toni, how are you?
Hello, Dario. I'm good. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Arnab from Kyowa, Kirin, coming from Germany. Same question.
Hi, Dario. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Very good. Thank you. Looking forward to
not a terribly strong signal. Sorry about that. Please
we have Marcus
begin, and I will try to link in, but I'm just not got a strong signal.
Marcus, can you hear us? Marcus? Marcus? And Marcus Weiss from 60 Seconds. I suppose you can't hear us, or?
No, he cannot hear us.
Okay. We will wait for Marcus to solve the technical issues and difficulties. So let's deep dive into the conversation and start with the first. Let's check it again. Marcus, can you hear us? We can't hear you. No? So let's deep dive into the conversation and start with the first question, which is, we started to speak about omnichannel engagement in medical affairs. How to properly implement that into medical affairs from the people and change management side. Who would like to start first? Maybe you, Tamara.
Thank you. Great topic and a great question, I would say. So when I think about omnichannel and I think about medical affairs, the first things that comes to my mind are two keywords probably for omnichannel, which are interaction between all channels and customer centricity, which is something that differentiates from multi-channel, let's say. And then if I think about that, I say, okay, but this is basically what we want to achieve even beyond the omnichannel. So interaction means breaking the silos between different departments. We are currently doing that at medical affairs in Servier, trying to break the silos even between diseases, so to make a cross-functional transversal project. So this is, I would say, the first thing that we should do, even for an omnichannel approach. Put on board everybody. This is the beginning of the creation of an omnichannel approach project. I will make an example, content platform for MSLs, for sales reps. We have to put everybody on board, and especially compliance, because if we want to mix between Salesforce and MSL, compliance has to be on board since the beginning and tell us what we can do, what we cannot do. And then also to give this very important role to MSL as a key orchestrator of the story of this omnichannel, because finally someone has to be responsible for making this kind of machine working. So this is for interaction, I would say, side. So break the silos, put everybody on board, and define the orchestrator. On the side of customer centricity, I think we have, first of all, to know what this, it's obvious, but not always we are doing it, what is the main expectation of doctors from us for our diseases, for our products, what is the main way, format that he wants to consume, because for a long time we have been just using videos, but then we understood that they want to listen more podcasts, so now we are doing podcasts, but we wouldn't have thought about that if they didn't tell us. And then in order to be really customer-centric with this omnichannel approach, so why we are using omnichannel is because we want to be able to, of course, personalize the approach to a doctor to exactly give him what he wants to know in the specific moment. So these are the two things that I would say on top of my mind, how to prepare the company for the omnichannel approach in MSL.
Thanks a lot, Tamara. Marcus, I hope that you can hear us now. And I suppose you also heard what Tamara mentioned. So how do you see this properly, let's say, engagement and coaching when it comes to medical affairs? So very same question for you. Marcus, can you hear us? Marcus? Okay. Let's continue then with you. Yeah. Let's continue with you, Toni. I hope that Marcus can join us.
Yeah. So look, in this last probably 10 years, we have been talking about this, right? So it's not really a new topic about omnichannel and how we orchestrate this. In these 10 years, I've seen different slides describe this. And so at the beginning of it, the sales rep was in the middle, because this was kind of threat to the sales rep. So you had the omni-channel was about the sales rep in the middle, kind of distributing all the different channels around the business. So, and in that diagram, medical was another communication channel, right? It was just basically, okay, if the doctor needs an MSL, I will send an MSL. This evolved when you put the customer in the middle, and then again, you have all these different channels around the customer. I guess eventually we need to start with the end, right? So what do we try to achieve? It's just about communication, about communicating different kind of information or content, or is more related to create a real relationship with this customer. And in that regard, the role of the MSL is different. It's not just a communication channel. It can become the channel if that's what the doctor wants, right? If the doctor wants is a partner to create more evidence or more real-world evidence, or to have peer-to-peer communication, then the MSL becomes the center of the communication, right? So depending on the brand many times and depending on the P&L, this omni-channel can be just a platform to get to the right stakeholder in relationship with the healthcare professional, or it can become just the only thing when it's just all about sharing information. But I think it's the MSL, we need to define if the MSL is going to be just a channel, or is going to be even the owner of the relationship, when the tool, the omni-channel tool, is just a tool, and it's the MSL who drives this relationship, and that changed the whole thing. Is the tool the center, or is the customer, or is even the MSL eventually who orchestrate the medical communication around this guy?
Very good point. Thanks a lot. Arnab, same question for you.
Thank you, Dario. That's a very interesting question, and actually Tamara and Toni really covered it well. Tamara spoke of the people perspective, also Toni coming in from the MSL side of things. I think I would like to take a step back and look at when we really started talking about omnichannel transformation in the pharma business. This was really aided by the digital acceleration that was also provided by COVID, the pandemic period. And I think digital is at the center of all this, because digital really provides the synchronicity among the channels, bringing them all together at the same level. So really, omnichannel transformation is a tale of two transformations. One, the operating model, but also on the other hand, digital transformation. But if you look at the core of this, why we are doing this, it's people. It's the altered circumstances, how, during the COVID times, we wanted to connect to people, and why we wanted to connect to people. If you come back to that people segment, I think Tamara raised it very well. What is needed from people and change management side is a complete change of mindset, a transformation, and for this to happen across the enterprise, it's very important to communicate the why, the vision of why we are doing it. Because if we are able to communicate to our colleagues and to everyone in the company why we are doing it, they would be on board together. And this business model, this omni-channel, be it in medical affairs, be it in commercial excellence, can only function when everyone's on board with the same story, everyone playing in the orchestra with the same tune. So I think communication of the why is very important. And then comes to my mind the how. And when people get to learn about the why, of course, some of the colleagues would think, yes, but digital is at the center of all this, and I do not know digital. And it's a fact that not everyone is as digital affine, if I can call it, digital savvy. So what is needed from the other side is the upskilling and the continuous learning for all the colleagues, all the stakeholders. With that, I think there's also the necessity to address the fears and needs of people, of the stakeholders who are involved in this model, because unless we can address them, there would be unlikely channels to the same extent use these technologies to the same extent, use this operating model to the same extent. And that leads to failure, of course. And once again, I want to come back to the why. When communicating the why of why we are doing this, we need to connect it to the core values of each and every individual. So that's from the people side of things. I think that's very vital to communicate, to get everyone on board. On the customer side of things, I think we also have to have a better understanding. I think Toni and Tamara both mentioned this. We need to have a better understanding of the customers, what they want, what they need, and if at all we are providing, addressing the needs of the customers, because ultimately in Omnichannel, we are dealing with customer first, putting the customer at the center of everything.
Exactly. Thanks a lot, Arnab. Very good insights. Let's move forward to the next question, which is really so related to the human aspect, or how to prepare, coach the MSL teams for delivering the proper communication messages to key stakeholders. I think this is a very tough one, but let's hear your opinion. And this time we can start with you, Toni.
Yeah. Probably the first big step is to make the MSL understand that this is not just about communication messages. Probably I will challenge the question in that line, Dario. It's not about coaching about how to deliver messages. It's how you accept your role as a relevant partner of this doctor. So if you are just another channel, probably it's much easier to go through digital. I mean, it's not about just, sorry for the term, but vomiting information to the healthcare practitioner. Is how you create a relevant conversation that changes the practice, that changes the healthcare system, that shapes how the doctors see the disease. And that's not a lot about communication and messages. It's about creating this trust between two professionals, two scientists, that they want the best for the patient. And so in that regard, I think that the most important part in the coaching is to accept the responsibility of not being a messenger, the responsibility of being a partner. And that comes with a totally different set of skills, which is not just to be a great communicator, it's to be a great partner, which is much more than communication.
Thanks a lot, Toni. Marcos, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. So Marcos also joins us, and you're just in time for the critical question where we all believe in you. You're the great expert. So I can repeat it once again, and this is how to prepare, coach the MSL teams for delivering the proper communication messages to key stakeholders.
Yes. Sorry about all. There, but hopefully you can hear me at the stage. Yeah, look, it's a great question. I think speaking to a lot of people in the medical response at the moment, and I think the big thing that we're seeing, a lot of, obviously there's an enormous focus on, how can we equip our MSLs to communicate at the highest level and be really compelling with their exploration of the scientific narrative. But I think everyone's actually, from what I can tell, taking a step even back to say, well, before we really start to look at that intensively and develop a program going back, I think we've really got to look at our medical managers. We've got to look at how we're coaching people in an incremental fashion over time, and how we're equipping our medical managers to actually coach. Because a lot of medical managers have been thrust into the role. Their experience of coaching is not significant, and their level of confidence with coaching is not quite what it could be. And so I feel that's the area where a significant amount of investment is be put as the first step.
Thanks a lot, Marcos. Very good insights. Tamara, I suggest you can build on what Marcos and Toni said.
Yeah, thanks, and welcome, Marcus. Great to see you. So it's interesting because, this topic, I have to be honest, as I'm not managing directly MSLs, I wanted to know the reality. So I discussed with a colleague who is a manager of MSL. And I really asked her, I said, tell me, how do you do? What do you do to prepare your MSL? How do you coach them, etc.? And then it was so, as usually, when we ask the direct person who is really working on the field, you have always the best answer, because we can be very theoretical. And then she gave me a very simple answer. She told me, there are two things. First, what is the main objective of the MSL is to get insight from a doctor. If we don't get the right insight, we will not be able to achieve our key strategic imperatives, which is why we are going to see this doctor. Meaning that he adopts a certain way of thinking, of messaging, of thinking about the product, about the disease, whatever we have to talk about. And then I said, okay, but to get this insight, what do you need? How do you make this possible with MSL, apart from competencies that are hard skills? She said, yes, let's say this is 30% maximum. 70% is, of course, about the famous soft skills. We are not discovering something new today. But I said, how do you do this? And she said, I have to be honest, we do in a bit probably classic way. So we have the coaching done by MSL manager on the field or in the face-to-face during the role play in the company. Then we have mentoring with an older colleague who has longer experience. And then we have mentoring with the doctor. So all this to say, because she said what we have to be able to do to improve in this MSL is the capacity to ask the right question and the capacity to listen to the doctor in order to be able to get this famous insight. And when I said, but do you do some, let's say, external coaching or some specific, she said, it's not something that we really, from time to time, but it's more exception than the rule. But the rule is to kind of learning by doing or by being coached by your colleague who is much more, I would say, in the field and knowing more about how to ask the right question. So it's a bit practical, but I think it's good to know what is happening really on the field.
And I believe we all struggle with the same problems, which you just right. Thanks a lot, Tamara. Arnab?
Yeah, I think Tamara and Marcus really laid the groundwork for that. Like Tamara, I also have the luxury or the challenge of not managing MSLs. But as I mentioned in our chat previously, that we work in this very close omnichannel system where we form strategies together with our commercial colleagues, and so insight generation is very important, and it's very important to have this single unified customer view, right? So, so my role, for example, is a very hybrid role, which also involves MSL responsibility. So I'm also responsible for getting insights about our customers. I think what helps me, and I can speak from my point of view, what helps me is a coherent story. It's very important to get the story right, because HCPs are really busy people. Time is of essence, and it's very important to have a succinct, coherent story with a single unified messaging that gets the point across, a story that sticks. That's number one. But also, I think what helps immensely is the art and craft of storytelling. So I think that's where a lot of coaching can help, and I personally find that very useful. How to craft stories that's compelling, that sticks with the audience, and how to address the inner values, the needs and demands of the person, of the audience, in other words, the customer. And if we can align our stories to that of the needs of the customer, I think that's how we can best prepare the teams. Of course, another aspect, and that comes back again to the insight generation, we have to have the sharing of insights among the teams in order to create that rich customer experience that can be accessed across the board to provide the best service available to the customer.
Thanks a lot, Arnab. Last question, and let's start this time with you, Marcus. Apart from the technology side, where to start when we want to implement a proper communication strategy across today's medical affairs team?
Sorry, Dario, just once more.
Sure. Apart from the technology side, where to start when we want to implement a proper communication strategy across the medical affairs teams?
Yes, no, it's a big question, and I think I was listening to Arnab there talking about storytelling and focusing on the customer. Look, I think another really great place to start. a bit like the question, how do we help people, communicate effectively? It's like, I need at least an hour to talk on that subject, just to skim the surface. But I think one other thing that I believe can be done more effectively is, who are our leaders in the team? Who is doing a great job already? What are they doing? And I think, we probably get this input from our best MSLs in field, maybe every 6 months at conference. There's some anecdotal exploration in workshops and so on and so forth. But developing ways to keep people updated with the manner in which the best MSLs in field are holding those conversations. How are they engaging? How are they generating insights? What questions are they asking? What stories are they telling that are memorable and engaging? And how can we share that and allow people to adapt that process and execution for themselves in their own style to ensure that they're getting the most out of meetings?
Thanks a lot, Marcus. Thank you for setting the stage. Let's continue with you, Arnab.
So my turn. That took me by surprise, because what I was thinking about, and Marcus really set the ground for that. What I'm really considering in this question is proper communication strategy, and when we consider proper communication strategy, you have to get the audience right. You have to understand your audience, because we know, and I think it's across the board, across the industry, we know that one size doesn't fit all. The same message doesn't get across to all. So if we know our audience, if we know the customers, and if we know the key needs and requirements of these, I think we can better address the communication tailored for each individual customer segments. So I think segmentation, knowing our customers, is very important. We have to ensure that we've got the fundamentals right before we move on to the tech, because it's a very important point you make, Dario. Apart from tech, I think tech comes, somewhere in the middle towards the end, because it's the people who will have to adopt the tech in order to make the tech a success. Tech by itself is just a means to an end, right? And so I think knowing our customer, I think Toni also mentioned about building that partnership between the customer and our trusted partner side of things. So building that partnership, knowing the customer well, and addressing the needs of the customer instead of what we have been doing, pushing information about the products and so on and so forth, whether the customer needs it or not. So I think those are the fundamentals that we need in place before we can decide on the tech, because the tech has to also address your business realities and your business needs properly.
Exactly. Thanks a lot, Arnab.
And I think if I may quickly add to that, I think it's very important in this whole model, because we are across the industry in a phase of experimentation. We have to be curious. We have to, drive data affinity across the organization. I think these are the fundamentals that would put us on the right track.
Thanks a lot, Arnab. Tamara?
It's a very important point. From where to start? Probably we should always start from what is the diagnosis of the situation. So in order to prepare this communication, prepare MSL to deliver the right message. Once we know what is diagnosis of the situation, then we have to say what are our key strategic imperatives that we have to achieve at the level of HCP's adoption. Then we have to be able with our MSLs to measure how much these doctors are moving towards these key strategic imperatives. And once we have achieved a sufficient, let's say, level of adoption, then we move to another one. So I think there is we talk about soft skills, we talk about capacity to understand, to create insight, and then to be able to be assertive. But we also have to be able to measure where we bring someone in adoption of a certain type of message in order to be able to succeed. So this has nothing to do, we might say, with the technology. It's much more about person and about a key performance indicator of the person. But it also has to do with the technology, because technology today is part of this person, because we are all in one. I think there is no point talking about anymore about digital communication, digital marketing. There is no communication today without digital. So it's all in one. Now, who is the orchestrator? Then we can discuss, is it MSL? Is it, it depends on the probably life cycle management, also the product. In the early phase, in the pre-launch phase, it's MSL. There is no, I think, doubt. Probably in late phase, it's more Salesforce representative, the orchestrator. But I think the communication world includes human and digital. And we have to be able to achieve the strategic imperatives that has been established and to measure it.
Thanks a lot, Tamara. And Toni, final words? You're muted.
Yeah. So look, from my perspective, the MSLs are scientific disruptors, right? So they are, at least from the medical, as innovator, as an innovative company, the MSLs go to the field to disrupt the thinking of the doctors, the thinking of the healthcare system. So I think the most important thing is to really identify what part of the system you want to disrupt with your innovation. And the other day I hear here from a colleague a sentence that I really love it. That is that many of us, we prefer questions that we don't know how to answer, that answer that we don't know, that we cannot question. So I don't think a doctor is waiting or expecting from the MSL 100% exact messages that you cannot criticize, but what you are expecting from the MSL is someone that challenges your clinical practice and because you are bringing something new for patients. So let's help the MSLs to be disruptors and to do that role. That, by the way, is much more interesting than just telling stuff and communicating close messages.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Toni. And of course, to Marcus, Tamara, and Arnab. Was a really great conversation. We will publish it on our official YouTube channel and looking to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah.